All right, man. Shucks, man. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. I mean, hey, look, man. Hey, life is all about growth, bro. what? What? And this one, and this will make it what 21, something like that. God, man. Jeez. Live on the radio. And look, and if y'all hear me popping the top back here, I'm not popping brews. I'm fixing to down energy. No, I actually got it's C4. It's Cellucor C4. Yeah, good old energy drink. Because after we finish talking schmack, I'm going to get on this side of the garage, what I call my iron paradise, and get in the workout. Yeah. So. No, nah. Oh yeah. No, I'm not on that level yet. But one day, but not right now.
It's time for another episode of Casualties podcast. Now here are two guys that were traded away from Houston long before it became fashionable. It's Patrick Lopez.
Here's the deal. I'm the best there is, plain and simple. I mean, I wake up in the morning, I piss excellence.
And Rod English.
I've got the style and profile like never before. Woo!
Greetings and salutations. I haven't done that in a while. That's the proper Cap Casualties intro, right?
Greetings. Yes.
Greetings and salutations. Greetings and salutations. I'm Patrick Lopez. With me, as always, is the notorious ROD, Rod English. Rod, if you don't know by now, we are the Cap Casualties podcast. We're here to talk sports and stuff. We got a lot to talk about, Rod. We got a lot to talk about, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a couple of weeks since we were last on these. Go old school. Since we've been on these airwaves.
Man, a lot of it's crazy because we take a few weeks off and things just go nuts while we're off every time.
Yeah,
every
time.
Mean,
and every time that we do it, it's just people don't know how to behave. More stories, just happen to pile up, and maybe that's just what needs to just happen. I mean, we'll record an episode, we'll peel off for a little bit, let the sports universe kind of, gurgle itself up and up to a bubbling crude.
To quote the old friend Raul Garza, let it just marinate for a little bit, right?
Yeah. You gotta let that thing marinate.
Just let it marinate.
That's right.
We talk some sports, we devour a little bit of sports, we talk it, and then we let it marinate for a little while.
Yeah, that's right. So, shout out to Raul Garza. Look, man, bro, if you are watching, you happen to come across this, man, we miss you, big dog. So, anyways, that's a good shout out right there, man.
I mean, I have a picture of him taped to the back of my milk carton. Like, have you seen this man?
Because, have you seen this dude? Right?
Like, if you could find Raul Garza for me, just say no. I'm kidding. I know how to reach him, but guys, seriously though, a lot has happened in the past few weeks. Look, we had an NBA trade deadline go down. We've had arguably the wildest and maddest NCAA tournament in a long ass time. And then on top of all that, it's only been 13 days. Like Rod and I were doing a little bit of show prep before we hit record here. It's only been 13 days since that first post on Instagram went down, but Deshaun Watson, we have a lot to talk about with the saga that is Deshaun Watson and the massage parlors. We will get to that soon. Because we both have some. Yeah. We both have some strong takes on that. But first off, Rod, let's talk a little bit about the NBA. Look, I think with all of the trades, Oladipo left Houston. I'm trying to think of all the big ones that went down. But that was probably the one that really stood out to me just because of the Houston angle on that. But it's funny because during this time, Andre Drummond was released. Austin Rivers has been released. Blake Griffin was released. And all these cats are either signing with Brooklyn or the Lakers. Right. So I think at this point, all these guys that made a ton of money in the NBA that got their buyouts are now taking their vet minimums to go win a ring. I think at this point, when you really look at this whole the NBA landscape as we gear up for the stretch run to the playoffs, everybody was basically when the season started and had a quarter of the way in, everyone was giving it to LA. They're like, it's the Lakers. It's the Lakers and everyone else. And then James Harden was shipped off, which we were both like adamant that had to happen. Didn't really care where he went. Went to Brooklyn to go team up with his old boy Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. And then since then, they've added a few more players. A lot of players have shuffled in that deal. A lot of players have shuffled in a few of these deals. And I don't have the paperwork in front of me because I'm not really I don't really want to break all that down right now. But my point being is that it went from this is the Lakers title this year and everyone else to it looks like it's going to be a dogfight between Brooklyn and LA at this point.
Yep.
But what really cracks me up about this whole thing is all these vets are shifting to these two teams to basically get their ring and move on, or get their payday after this. They get their one ring and move on. It's going to crack me up if at the end of the season, if it's like a Boston Phoenix NBA Finals, it's like, or if it's like a Philadelphia and a Utah final, because as these transactions are happening, the NBA is salivating. The TV, the whoever has the TV deals right now. I don't even know what's going on with the finals. Is it still ABC right now? Is it still?
It's
ABC?
still ABC.
Okay.
Yeah, it's still ESPN, ABC.
Disney's just chomping at the bit. Like, come on, man, give us Brooklyn, LA. Just give it to us. Give it to us. And if we end up with Phoenix, Philadelphia, they're going to be like, come on, man. Like, really? But it's at this point, it's these two teams and everyone else based off of how they're stockpiling all these vets right now. LaMarcus Aldridge is in Brooklyn as well. Like, who's going to get all the touches at center now? This, that's going to be one thing over there where, Andre Drummond signs with the Lakers. And then, did he sign, by the way? Because I know that was like almost done.
Yeah, I think that deal was finalized today.
Okay. I've been a little bit out of the circle today. I took a little bit of time off to myself this weekend. So, so it's just crazy to me, man, that we're talking about all of these vets that have, been in the All-Star game multiple times. Like, all these guys are just basically picking a team, Brooklyn or LA, Brooklyn or LA, Brooklyn or LA. And it has to open up a lot of questions on how they're going to handle this going forward, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. But to kind of go back to what you just said, Adam Silver and the powers that be, they are chomping at the bit and praying to the basketball gods that that it winds up being Brooklyn and LA.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. Everybody's yelling Brooklyn and LA. And if I'm Rudy Gobert and the Utah Jazz, I am pissed at this point right now because they're not getting any respect whatsoever because they still have the best record in the NBA. And quietly the best record in the NBA. And they've been playing possibly the best ball, in the NBA. So it's like, okay, if you're Utah, you're going into the playoffs with an absolute chip on your shoulder.
But you also have to be, if you're Phoenix, right? That upstart team over there that everyone's just assuming it's the vets over in Brooklyn, it's the vets over in the with the Lakers, it's the Lakers and Nets, and it's everyone else. Right. It does have. If I were Gobert and if I were Donovan Mitchell, especially the kind of crap he had to get earlier in the season from Shaq, calling him out and all of that stuff, because I look, guys, I'm not a big fan of Utah. I'm not a big fan of Salt Lake City.
Never will be.
It's a aesthetically beautiful place, but the fans are garbage. They're racist, and there's a lot of bad stories involving Utah itself in Salt Lake City. But aesthetically, it's a beautiful state. And don't get me wrong, the scenery is beautiful out there. People, whatever. But I like Donovan Mitchell. Not a big fan of Rudy Gobert, but I like Donovan Mitchell. I like his game. I like Devin Booker. I like the center, Aikens. Is it Aikens? Aikens, the center.
DeAndre Ayton.
Ayton. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
DeAndre Ayton. I like Ayton's game. I think I would really like to see the Lakers. I mean, the Lakers have to really fight their way through if they're going to make it to the finals. To fight their way through Utah and Phoenix to get there, because as of right now, the Lakers are the number 4 seed. The Nets are the number 2 seed over there, and we're still not counting. I mean, everyone's just kind of looking the other way when it comes to the Bucks, because as long as Giannis is healthy, like, they're a title contender. Like, I think people are forgetting that. We're forgetting that the Sixers are still the top team in the East right now.
Right.
I think if the Celtics can figure a little bit of this out, they have a good core, and they could really contend as well. So it's just kind of funny how once these guys started getting buyouts on their deals or waived, that they immediately were signing with, or immediately talking to Brooklyn and LA. If I was the NFL of the NBA Player Association, I'd be a little pissed about that, just because these guys are taking they're taking basically pennies on the dollar to go play somewhere. Granted, the previous team that they were bought out of is paying a huge part of their current contract that they were that they're being bought out on, but. I think if I'm the NBA PA, I'm going to really have to look how we're going to allow this kind of stuff to keep happening. But it's just standing out now, and like you said, if I was Utah, I'd be really pissed, like how they're just counting us out. Like, they're just like, yeah, it's the Lakers. The Lakers once AD and once LeBron get healthy, it's over. It's like, really, guys, you can't really say that, man. You
really can't say that.
No, it has to be frustrating. It does. It has to be frustrating. Now, if I'm a Rockets fan right now, which is what I am, I'm very happy that they're losing and they're tanking. And the other day when they just completely smashed the Timberwolves, I was like, what's going on here, guys? And as we're recording on a Monday on the 29th, they were winning. And I was like, what's going on here, guys? Come on, seriously. Like, are we going to make these a couple of trades, trade away some of the higher paid players, and we're going to start winning again? Come on, guys. We gotta be tanking here, Rod.
But you know what? I have some really good news to give you.
Okay.
Some breaking news.
Break the news to me. Break it to me.
Okay. So as of 1 minute ago, the final score in the Memphis Grizzlies versus Houston Rockets matchup: Memphis 120, Houston 110.
You know what? I'm very happy for Memphis, because they are now back at 500 at the 9th seed. They're contending again to get back in. Great for Memphis, but even better for give me a top 3 pick, Rod. Give me a top 3 pick.
Yep. We are trying our best. When I say we, us being Rockets fans, there's a little bit of ownership there.
Yep.
We need to run the table in reverse. Okay, if those of you that are fans of the show, if you can recall a couple of years ago, I was rooting hard for, as far as NFL was concerned, when the Detroit Lions, I want to say that they did achieve it. They went through one season, they didn't win not one single game.
That's right.
I was rooting for them hard to lose every single game. And I am of the same mindset with the Rockets. They've only won 13 games. I need for them to lose the rest of them.
Why do you want to tank if you're a fan? Don't you want them to win? Look, guys, they have a butt ton of first-round picks over the next couple of years. For me, there are 3 really good NBA prospects in the draft, or that will be entering the draft. 2 of them are still in the tournament. Well, no. USC lost, right?
Just one, I think.
Wait, did USC win or did USC lose? Let me go.
No, USC is still playing.
Okay, well, there you go. Okay, so far, one of them we know for a fact is moving into the next. No, we're not, because Gonzaga. You know what, dude? Let me just pull this up. I'm embarrassing myself tonight, man.
So you got.
Okay,
while you're doing that, I'll go ahead and fill in.
Okay,
so one of them, Cade Cunningham, he's with Oklahoma State, of course. They didn't really do anything.
Yep.
All right, I'm assuming the other one is one of the Mobley brothers.
Evan Mobley for USC, yes.
Right. For USC. Okay, so they're in the Elite Eight. I believe they play tomorrow.
That's right. Okay, so
Okay.
so two of
All
the
right.
okay, so let's be real. Two of the potentially top 3 picks are going to go head to head tomorrow night.
Yes.
Yeah. There we go.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I just had to look at my schedule because I got a little thrown off because I'm in a bit of a celebratory mood because a lot of my friends are U of H Cougars, and
Come on.
as of recording this, the University of Houston Cougars are back in the Final Four.
I mean, congrats, fellas.
Cougars!
Congrats.
And as we're taping right now, I'm that old. I'm calling it taping. Baylor is up 15 points on Arkansas. I have a few friends that are Razorbacks. I'm sorry to tell you, but I have even more friends that are Baylor Bears. So,
Yeah.
Plus I'm a Texas guy. I want both my Texas teams that are left in the tournament to go to the Final Four. It would just be really cool. Congrats to U of H. A great run for Kelvin Sampson this year, and it's even better because it's going to be so much sweeter when the University of Texas hires him as the next head coach over there. I know a lot of you U of H fans are just going to be really pissed hearing that, but money talks, guys. I'm sorry. Money talks.
Look, if Houston winds up winning the Natty, in which they have a great shot,
Yeah.
okay,
It was tough this evening against Arkansas State because they were up big and then they
Oregon State.
Oregon State.
Yeah.
They were up big and Oregon State just started, and the Beavers just started running back at them, got within 2 points, and then they were able to close it out. So, but I mean, still, hopefully that was eye opening because whoever they face next is going to be tough.
But you know what? That is a Kelvin Sampson type team. They've been doing this from the first tip off at the beginning of the year up till now, gutting out those gritty, grimy type wins. That's their forte, and that's been their forte.
Sure.
And that's what's got them into the Final Four. You don't have any, body that is just, leaping off the page as far as stats wise, and just lighting up the scoreboard with numbers, but, they are known for their, defense, their toughness, their rebounding. I mean, I want to say that they are, average top 5 in rebounds and points off of rebounds.
Yeah.
And so, they just know how to grind out wins. And if they can slow you down and get you into a half court, type of game in which, there's not too many run and gun type offenses that are in the tournament anyway, maybe except for, Michigan, they're pretty diverse. To where they could switch up what they do. Gonzaga could switch up what they do. They can play you half court, or they can go run and gun. Both of those teams can do it, right?
Yeah.
But Houston, their forte has been, we're going to grind you down and we're going to out tough you. If we out tough you, most of the time we're going to win. So that's just a Kelvin Sampson, coach team, Kelvin Sampson led team, and I couldn't be more happy for the hometown Cougars, man.
It's going to be hard, man, because if things go the way they're trending while we're recording, it's going to be Baylor and Houston in the Final Four. That's going to be a great media matchup for the region,
man.
Which is great. But at the same time, that's going to be just a banging game. That's going to be a banger game right there. I mean, that's going to be physical. That's going to be just in the paint. It's going to be intense. That's just because that's how both teams operate. They play hardcore defense. But a couple shout outs. Oral Roberts, the 15th seed. And they were able to knock out Ohio State, which is, for me, that's always great just because I love seeing Ohio State fall on their ass every time, whenever possible. It doesn't even matter what the sport is. Seeing Ohio State go down is just a beautiful thing. It could be tennis, it could be bocce ball. I don't give a damn. I like to see Ohio State just lose. What is it? What do you have against them? I don't know, man. It's just to me, they feel like in college sports they're like my Utah Jazz. I just don't like it. I could like a player on a Ohio State team, but as a program, I'd love to see them lose. I just do.
Of course,
that's just why.
Of course.
Second round, Loyola beat Illinois, which is great to see.
Oh man, that was beautiful.
our team, the University of Texas, they got shown up by Abilene Christian, the 14th seed in the opening game.
Yeah.
That's just, what can I say about that? What can I say? I mean, it's just, it was, and Shaka Smart knew it was time to run out of there and with his tail tucked and get out, which is it's due. He hasn't had a lot of success over there at Texas, and
and in which he goes to Marquette, as of a couple of days ago, which, no pun intended, was probably was extremely smart move. I mean, I've always had the moniker of I'm gonna get me before you get me, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and it actually, to be honest with you, the move, really goes in his favor because Texas, historically, they are a football first school. Yeah. It's football and it's everything else. It's football that funds the whole athletic budget, right?
Yeah.
To where he goes to Marquette, to where Marquette is a basketball school. It's basketball and it's everything else. So he's going to get, and it's not that he didn't have resources at Texas. I mean, because gosh, I mean, he had the resources.
And it's not like he didn't recruit, because he did at Texas as well.
Yes, he did. But going to Marquette, to where, I mean, if you're winning, they're going to leave you alone.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so the previous coach, Steve Wojciechowski, in which, I'm a low key Duke fan since '91. I'll admit it. I mean, I'm a Dookie. Love Wojo as a player, loved him as an assistant coach, but when he took that Marquette job, I mean, he didn't have that much of a winning record. And so if Shaka could come in and for the first 2 years, get him back in the NCAA tournament and make a little bit of noise, then he's set.
Yeah. It's a under the radar program, which was what VCU was. And
right.
I think just because of his personality, I think that's where he can thrive. And going to Marquette is a good fit for him. Joking aside about Texas and tucking his tail and all that, I know Del Conte was pissed when it was leaked out from Smart's camp that he was within minutes interested in taking the job, and then 5 minutes later he's taking the job. So I'm sure that of course Texas immediately after that releases a statement saying it was quote unquote mutual, but the reality was he was getting pushed out, but he wanted, like you said, he wanted to be the one to break up first. He wanted to be the one to break up the relationship first. And look, I mean, he's a nice guy, and I just like Tom Herman was for Texas when he was hired. Was he the right hire at that time? Yes. So was Shaka Smart. They were the up and coming coaches. Tom Herman at Houston, what he did with the program. So I'm making jokes about Kelvin Sampson, but the reality is, guys, is that there are a bunch of big dollar boosters over there and alums over at Texas that they help buy out these deals with these coaches, and they with Sark being the next guy. I have to say this: Sark does have a history. The alcoholism and all that stuff. I'm not going to be the one to criticize any of that. For me, it was his time at Washington when I saw him recruit. He just didn't get the most out of his talent, and that had me worried. But I will tell you this: he has created a streamlined program at Texas where, the coordinators and the assistant coaches, they're supposed to run their positions and their offense and their side of the ball. That's really it. And he's just going to be the head coach, which is what I think they needed. I think Tom Herman getting too involved in too many aspects of it, just like Charlie Strong did. That's probably that's really not what Texas needs, because you remember Mac Brown, he came in here from North Carolina. That's his approach. He was like, my offensive coordinator is going to be running my offense. My DC is running my DC, and that's my strength coach takes care of it. And that's really it. I'm the manager of the football program, right? And I think Sark is taking that approach rather than like a Tom Herman where it's like, I am the head coach, but I'm involved. I'm micromanaging everything, and
yeah, and it's funny that you say that, because I sent you a episode of a local Austin beat reporter for the Longhorns. I believe he's nationally tied to Rivals, to Orange Blood, which is owned by Rivals.com, Anwar Richardson, and which is a really, really good listen. So, I mean, any of you that are, really into college football and you're really into podcasts, go check out his podcast on Yak Network. I forgot what the name of it, what the name of the title of it is, but Anwar Richardson, anyways, he brought up a good topic, since we're going to go ahead and go there real quick.
Sure.
That Sarkisian, in the first 3 months of him being a head coach at Texas, has already accomplished more in a lot of aspects than what Charlie Strong and Tom Herman did within their first year.
Yeah.
And that is get immediate player buy-in.
It's funny you bring that up, because I think with like Charlie Strong, what he did was obviously at the back end of Mac Brown's tenure at Texas, there was a toxic culture there, and it was pervasive in the locker room, and it resonated through campus. And trust me, I have stories, and I'm not going to dish out a lot of dirt, but I will tell you that Mac Brown had really, at the back end, you could tell it was time for him to go.
Yeah.
There was talk of Nick Saban coming in and other coaches, and then Tom Herman took the job. And at the same time, Shaka Smart came in, and it was much needed. It was a refresher, because we needed I'm sorry, Charlie Strong came in after Mac Brown. Where Charlie screwed up was he immediately wanted to change that bad culture, which I respect, but he didn't get enough players to buy into him.
Right.
He could recruit guys, but he couldn't get them to buy into what he was building there. Tom Herman tried to do the same thing, but I think Tom Herman, where he failed, was he micromanaged. And how am I gonna spin this to basketball, guys? Simple. Shaka Smart came in around the same time as Tom Herman did. He had a very mediocre start, but he kept recruiting. He recruited his butt off. 5-star athletes were coming in every class to Texas, but they weren't very good as a team. I think there was one year where they had two or three 5-stars, and they had a horrible season. They were barely like 500. Remember that? It was a couple years ago.
Yeah, and they actually won the NIT.
Yeah, they won the NIT that year, and everyone thought, okay, Shaka Smart is turning the program around. I'm like, really, guys? That is the standard we want to build, is winning the NIT, not going.
We're number 68.
Yeah, exactly. And so, in this season, it was a good regular season, and there were some ups and downs, just like Michigan did at the same time. But what my whole point of this, guys, is you want to bring in a head coach that wants to basically manage the company, be the CEO, not be the micromanager, not be middle management as well as the CEO of your team. That's kind of what happened with Michigan. Juwan Howard didn't have a lot of head coaching experience, was an assistant for a long time. And I'm a big fan of Juwan Howard. I love Juwan Howard. I love the guy in the Fab Five. I thought he was my favorite of the Fab Five. When he went to the NBA, I always rooted for him. I was so happy when he got to spend a season or two in Houston. Was happy that he actually won his NBA ring at the end of his career in Miami. Was very happy for the guy, because I always heard very good things about Juwan Howard. And when I got to work in sports, I got to when I covered the Rockets a little bit here and there, for the stations I worked at. I met him once, and I will tell you, I'm a 5'10" guy. The dude is 6'10". The dude's a giant standing next. I'm standing next to the guy. He's like, he's a giant next to me. He's an NBA center. What can I tell you? But I will tell you, he was the sweetest guy. Like, he was really cordial, and like I asked him a couple of questions, and he was very nice. And I just told him, hey man, I followed your career all the way from Michigan, and I just want to tell you, I'm a big fan. And he was like, oh, thanks so much. Really appreciate it. I was very happy when he got the Michigan job. And I know a lot of people were critical of it because, one, was it a splashy hire because he's a former Wolverine, but what he's been able to do over there has been awesome. And I'm glad he's turned it around. I'm glad he's got them into the Elite Eight and potentially into the Final Four. We'll find out tomorrow on Tuesday night if they're going to make it. Going up against the surprise to me is UCLA still in this bad boy.
Oh man,
the play-in game team is in this in the Elite Eight. I'm like, that makes me look bad because I always think the whole play-in games. I always make jokes about that, but this UCLA is all the way through there, man. They made it all the way through the Elite Eight, and good luck to them tomorrow night against Michigan. But my point, all of this is that you got to get a coach or bring in a coach that wants to instill a culture, which is great, but also runs it like a CEO, where he allows his assistants and his scouts to do their thing. Does that make sense, Rod? Just to do their thing.
Oh, it makes perfect sense. I mean, going back to Michigan and Juwan Howard, I think one of the things that doesn't get, well, no, it does get talked about quite a bit in the national media is, of course, the splashy hire. I mean, that particular hire, seemed like there was some tension between the Fab Five members, and him getting hired on at Michigan was basically, hey, look, fellas, you got Chris Webber and Jalen Rose saying, you know what, we just need to bury the hatchet because this is the perfect opportunity for us to come together and get behind our brother and really push the program because, Jalen and Chris for a while was like, okay, we're not stepping on campus, until you put some respect on our name.
Well,
and so,
to be fair, there is controversy with Chris Webber regarding his time at Michigan, like basically just squealing to the media about being paid during his time at Michigan. So I'm sure there's a lot of alum out there that are still pissed at Chris Webber.
But it seemed like the Juwan Howard hire basically swept all that under the rug, right? I mean, all the Fab Five members are behind Juwan and really pushing the program. But my point in saying all of this, as far as Juwan is concerned, and going back to your point of, the head coach being just the CEO,
sure,
because there's an old adage of, you're only as smart as the people that are around you.
Yeah.
And if you surround yourself with people that are smarter than you, then, when you throw out whatever ratio, 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10, you're going to be successful. There was one key hire that Juwan made when he was putting together his coaching staff. And that one key hire was Phil Martelli.
Not going to argue.
People that don't know who Phil Martelli is, okay? Let me go ahead and just kind of run it down for you, all right? Basically, the winningest basketball coach at St. Joseph's. He spent almost dang near his whole basketball career coaching St. Joseph's. If you remember back in the day when St. Joe's went to the Final Four, when they had Delonte West and Jameer Nelson, yes, Phil Martelli was that coach.
Yep.
Okay. And so one of the greatest basketball minds in college basketball to ever step on the court. Am I saying that he's, John Wooden or whatever? No, but he's like tier 2. You got John Wooden, Dean Smith and Coach K, right? And then that next tier, you got to throw in Martelli. You have to throw in Martelli. So you have him and his basketball knowledge and wisdom. Okay. And I'm looking at the roster right now. Here's another name that you may remember, Pat, former Utah Jazz guard, Howard Isley.
Yep.
Okay. So NBA experience, right? Okay. You take Juwan with his ties to the university, his NBA experience, a champion as a player and as an assistant coach. Okay, so he's got championship pedigree. Took Michigan to the Final Four 2 years in a row. So he has that championship pedigree. Sure. And then you surround him with all of this experience, man. He has no choice but to succeed, dude, because he put those type of successful people and wise people around him.
Yeah.
And so you take a look at Steve Sarkisian and all the hires that he made. Man, he put some pretty. He has put together a pretty impressive staff. So when it comes to that Texas job, whoever they hire, and once again, if Houston wins the Natty, you can go ahead and book it. Kelvin Sampson's going to UT, all right, because they're going to pay him.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and step out on the line, step out there and say book it. If Houston wins the Natty, you can guarantee Kelvin Sampson's going to be in burn orange next year, right?
And you have to remember when Tom Herman left U of H for Texas, there was talk about Fertitta signing him to a massive extension, right? And it just still wasn't enough because it's still not just it's not the Texas job. The imprint,
Nope.
the conference, all these things, the university endowment. There's just so much there, and it's not meant to brag. It's just it's a bigger school, a bigger profiled school, and that, don't get me wrong, I love the University of Houston. I love.
Oh man,
I have a lot of beef with Tillman Fertitta and how he's run the Rockets the past couple of years. I'm not a big fan of that. But I am a big fan of how Tillman Fertitta invested money into the University of Houston to help them upgrade their facilities because it was long overdue. Hofheinz Pavilion was a toilet bowl. Literally, you thought you were walking into a giant toilet bowl.
Because that's really what it looked like.
Yeah, it was time for an upgrade. He helped with that. He helped. There's a lot of facilities and a lot of with the athletic program that he's helped push forward with. And I've appreciated what he's done for the university because they needed that. They needed the big pocketbooks from someone that had a high profile in the Houston market, in the Houston community, to help kind of steer people towards the University of Houston. And I'm very happy for them. I'm happy that they're in the Final Four again. It's long overdue. It's been a struggle. There were times where they thought that they made the hire that was going to turn things around in basketball, and it never worked out. Kelvin Sampson, it was Indiana, right, where he had to leave because of the texting stuff, the recruiting violations and all that. There's that issue that kind of loomed over Sampson for a little bit, but we both knew this, that he was a well-respected coach within basketball circles, both NBA and NCAA. So when he took that job, we were both like, man, I think they found their coach that's going to get them back in the tournament and get them deep, man. Like, this is going to be it. Do I want Kelvin Sampson to get offered a huge job at Texas? Part of me does, because I want to see the Longhorns get a quality coach in there. I really wish Shaka Smart would have made it work, but obviously it wasn't a good fit. But at the same time, part of me says I kind of wish that Sampson would stay in Houston, so he can help build that program up. Really, just like I'm talking about making it a profile, like bringing it up like where Gonzaga is right now,
Right.
Like just a steady recruitment portal where the top talent in Texas and in Houston, in the Houston area, have to really think about going to U of H first before they go to A&M or Texas or Baylor. It's like, shoot, I need to go to Houston, because I'm in the big city for one in Texas. So it's a much bigger market and exposure for me, but at the same time, it's like, but I really like the program and I like what Sampson's doing over there. And if I'm a one and done top talent, it's like, okay, I can go to Texas and go to Austin, come here to Austin for a year and see how it goes, or I can go play for Kelvin Sampson and really say, look, my one and done year can be in the tournament and deep in the tournament, Yeah.
So I mean, it's basically he's basically Sampson over the last couple of years that he's taken over the program. You're starting to get the feel of the old Phi Slamma Jamma days, right? To where basketball was basically, in a sense, running the school. I mean, you go back to when Drexler was at U of H and Elijah Wan and Michael Young and all those guys when they were running up and down, Hofheinz Pavilion. If Sampson, does extremely well in the Final Four, in which I believe that he will, and if he stays at Houston and continues to make these deep runs in the tournament, then you can basically say that Houston could easily turn back into a basketball school again, right? And so, but I agree with you. The Longhorn in me says, okay, if we get Sampson, he's going to bring that toughness, back to, the basketball program again, which is sorely needed, right?
Yep.
And almost that old school basketball, that basketball purist that's in me is like, okay, yeah, bringing back some tough and some grit, right? But at the same time, he can build his own legacy at the University of Houston. I mean, he's already had a great career.
Yeah.
But if he does what he does right now at Houston, continues to be consistent, then he can have a great career to a Hall of Fame career.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
If he does that. And so part of me is I will look for Houston to reward him with a great contract extension, and he stay there and build and continue to build that program, continue to build that legacy and build that culture to where, he's almost in the same conversations with the Guy Lewis's of the world, because still on that campus, Guy Lewis is revered, in all athletic circles, right?
Sure.
And if Sampson can continue to do what he does, then you gotta have. I mean, he's at the table, right? Yeah. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean,
I like him. He has the potential to be in a situation kind of like Mark Few at Gonzaga, which is what I really like. When Gonzaga, when he took over from Munson, everyone was very hesitant about Mark Few.
Yeah,
but they were a good, consistently good program. They just weren't a college basketball monster, a powerhouse, right? And then what was it, like 12, 13 years ago, the Adam Morrison season in the tournament that really turned people on, because before that season and before Gonzaga really made a statement in the tournament, as far as I remember, the only big name that you really thought of when you said Gonzaga was John Stockton.
Yep.
That was really, like, okay. And so as a kid, I'm like, what the hell is Gonzaga? So I would, do my research and find out, it's a college up in the Northwest. Okay, great. They're considered a mid-major. Okay, great. And you learn about mid-majors in college sports and baseball and basketball in particular, and you always see them pop up from time to time, these mid-majors in the tournaments, and do something good here and there. And you're like, okay, great. I'm a big fan of that, because I like to see I like to see that kind of parity in sports, right?
Right.
And then when that Morrison team really made a statement, and then some years back when they really went far, you start thinking about, okay, this is a team that really has their program on autopilot, I guess. Don't really want to. I'm trying to think of the best way to say it, but like I
think it's the right trajectory.
Okay, it's a well-oiled machine that's in the right trajectory, and Mark Few has kept that program in that direction the last 20 some odd years. I would like to see that. I doubt Sampson's going to be coaching, in basketball 20 years from now, but I'm talking about like a 10 to 12 year run. If it's at Houston, great. If he goes to Texas, I really want him to stay there. I want to see, because from what I've always heard is that players love to be around Kelvin Sampson, and they see him as a great coach and as a great basketball mentor, but also as a mentor as a person. So I really want to see him stay somewhere and really put some roots in for the next 5, 6, 10 years. Right. So if it is Houston, that's great. If it's not, if it's Texas says they're going to throw several bags of cash at him to bring him over here in Austin, I'm all for it, and I wish him the best, and I want him to succeed. I said the same thing about Shaka Smart, but for me it was like I really had no like tie to Shaka Smart other than like watching his team go to the Elite Eight in the VCU in the tournament, and they had their one shining moment and all that great stuff. But for me, like Kelvin Sampson, he's been around the Rockets organization. He's been around U of H now. Like, he's got ties to the community now. In Houston, where we're both from, in that area, I'm hoping, like, if he stays in Houston, I want it to be for the long term, and I want there to be success there, because I think that program deserves it. I do.
Agreed. I couldn't agree with you more, Pat.
All right. Let's move from hoops and let's talk about the elephant in the massage room. So, since we started this podcast up, and actually what kickstarted the renaissance of this podcast was the total disaster, the dumpster fire that was taking place at the Houston Texans front office, and then it started bleeding over to their players. And we talked about this over several episodes, about Jack Easterby, about Cal McNair, about Bill O'Brien. Then it became Dave Culley. But all through that whole process, we both said, if Deshaun Watson ever requested a trade, you said this, I'm done. And when the day that was announced, on Twitter, through his agent, he's requesting a trade, you were like, you just pinged me. You sent me a message. You're like, I'm out, yo. I'm out. I'm done. This is it for me. You know, you threw up the deuce and said, look, I'm done. I'm gonna go hang out with the 49ers for a little bit. Just let me know when shit gets straightened out over here. So 2 weeks ago, not even 13 days ago, while we're over here waiting for things to get worse and worse in terms of the potential trade, the demanding of the trade, what's going to happen with Deshaun, should they trade him, should they not, what can they get, seeing other teams make deals, trades, and signing their new franchise quarterbacks, we were both wondering what the hell is going to happen with Deshaun Watson and the Houston Texans. Well, then it just had to go completely off the rails, really, like 13 days ago. So on March 16th, Houston attorney Tony Busby posted on his Instagram that he had two clients that filed lawsuits, civil lawsuits, mind you. Remember, these are all civil. Let's just start with that now. Civil lawsuits against Deshaun Watson for inappropriate and sexually harassing behavior. And each day, it just got worse, Rod. Every day, you and I are texting and messaging back and forth, like articles and breaking news every single day while we're both trying to work our busy jobs. And we're like, man, this is getting. Can we go one day without another lawsuit being filed or more stories coming out about this guy?
Here's another one.
Yep, here's another one. So before we go in here, our approach is always to talk sports in a very lighthearted tone. But I want to do my disclaimer first, Rod. The information that's been presented to the public regarding as of today, March 29th, 2021, there are 19 civil suits that have been filed against Deshaun Watson for sexually harassing behavior from masseuses and from different areas, but primarily in the Houston area for inappropriate behavior. I'm not going to go into details, guys, because I think, you can go look it up, go do the research yourself. And for me, I want to say this. As someone that has several people that I'm very close to that are victims of sexual assault and rape, I'm very, very angry for the stories I read. And I think with Rod and I, we both, knowing each other for so long, we both are of the belief that, innocent until proven guilty. But at the same time, where there's a lot of smoke, there's a fire. And right now, there's a lot of smoke coming from Deshaun Watson's camp. Now, when I go forward with all this stuff, you and I are just going to talk how we normally talk, but I want to give my disclaimer. My feeling about this whole thing is there needs to be more information out there. The biggest piece of information that really is frustrating to me is to see there are 19 cases that are at this point, but there are zero of them are actually criminal investigations that we know of. Houston Police Department has not announced they are looking into, any type of criminal charges against Deshaun Watson. And if we have 19 women that are claiming they are victims of sexual assault, it angers me that we don't have any criminal investigations taking place on Deshaun Watson, because that's a lot of problem. There's a lot there. It's a lot. And it's a lot to absorb, and we'll talk about it here. But I want to give my disclaimer, guys. I do not condone anything that's happened here regarding what Deshaun Watson is alleged to have done over the past several years. I find it disgusting. I find it just reprehensible. And I think the NFL really needs to look at this. And I think based off of what we learned today as well, and we'll bring that up shortly, I think Deshaun Watson is done in the NFL, Rod. But just as a rundown, we started off with 2 lawsuits on the 16th, and every other day we felt like there was more and more lawsuits being filed. We're at 19 now, from 19 women claiming his behavior in the massage, whether in a massage parlor or private sessions. But it sounds like Deshaun Watson is a sexual deviant that has a problem, because as a professional athlete and as a wealthy man, he has means to pay for sex however he wants to. You can go on Tinder if he really needed to get it that bad. But this man likes to make victims of these professionals in their practice. And because of his notoriety, because of his profile, and because he felt like he can get away with it based off of all of these lawsuits I've read through. And I find it very disgusting for his behavior. But at the same time, we need to let the courts run this through, the process run through on all these civil lawsuits. But I'm done doing my serious tone, Rod, but I'm gonna hand it over to you, and then The next thing is we're just going to go ahead and rap about all of this insanity that is Deshaun Watson and what he's been doing. How have you felt the last couple weeks, Rod, reading these stories every day?
I couldn't agree more, Pat. And just like Pat said, naturally we're a bunch of goofballs. We talk trash. We cut a lot of jokes, and we're silly and everything. But when it comes to matters like this and serious matters, at the same time, we're grown men. I'm a father of a 15-year-old daughter. Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm extremely sensitive to this particular situation, to where I'm of the same mindset, to where this is something I do not condone. And my heart does go out to the victims. It is alleged, but, if it is true, then my heart goes out to the victims, and Deshaun Watson needs to be dealt with accordingly.
Yeah.
Screw what he does. Screw what he does on the football field. This has nothing to do with that. This is you being a predator. And once again, allegedly,
yeah.
HPD just came out with with an announcement. It was either yesterday or the day before, saying that there hasn't been any evidence that's been presented to them saying that Deshaun Watson is has done all this stuff.
Sure.
But who's to say? Everything's subject to change nowadays, right?
Yeah, especially with this Me Too movement that's been going on.
Yeah. And even with the latest lady to come out with allegations, this is not even a client of Tony Busby, and so the fact that this is coming from somebody else, once again, just like I told Pat earlier today, there's too much smoke. There's way too much smoke for there not to be some truth in this.
Sure.
Right. Sure. Now I will say this, Deshaun, he seems like a very likable guy, and if this is a money grab or whatever the case may be, then these ladies need to be dealt with. But if all of these allegations happen to be true, and if one of them turns into criminal, and it's a possibility that could happen, but then Deshaun Watson, I think that Deshaun Watson is done, as an NFL player. So, and then I'm gonna say this real quick.
Sure, go ahead.
You said something about these athletes, that have all this money. Look, Deshaun. Just like, I'm not putting him on a pedestal, because athletes, hey, look, you got a lot of athletes, regardless of, the girlfriends that they have. And Deshaun Watson has a bombshell of a girlfriend. I'm talking about, superstar, supermodel type girlfriend, right? But, men are going to be men and boys are going to be boys. And if he needed to, fulfill that part of him, right? Dude, you got money. If that's something that you just have to have all the time, then, rent you a place in Vegas, right? To where if you need to fulfill in all the debauchery that you want, and even me, I don't even condone that type of lifestyle, but, I'll put it out there. If debauchery is what you're into and all that stuff, to where you just got to have woman after woman after woman after woman, and you got all this money, go to Vegas and spend your money and do what you do, right? It's all legal over there, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I just can't. I can't fathom, just for the life of me, what would constitute somebody of that stature to force themselves on people. I guess it goes back to the song, that the Notorious B.I.G. Put out, before he passed, is more money, more problems, right? And so all money does is, if you have a sickness or you have some type of thing that you're covering up or whatever, all money does, it basically exacerbates the problem, and it magnifies the problems. You go from this level of debauchery, if you will, to this level of debauchery because you have money, more access, right? And with that, you have this mental complex of I got money, I got power. I mean, hey, look, I'm Deshaun Watson, right? And so, and it's not like the thing that I don't understand is you forcing yourself on people makes no sense to me because it's not like, and look, I'm not into judging guys' looks or whatever. That's not me. But it's not like Deshaun Watson is a busted up looking dude or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, okay. I mean, you're a good looking guy. I'm pretty sure you can pretty much get any woman in the world. What makes you think that you have to force yourself on people? To me, that makes no sense. That tells me a couple of things. I'm sorry that I'm ranting, but that tells me a couple of things. Number one, you have no, and this makes no sense to me. You have no confidence in yourself at all. You know what I mean? Because when you're having to use your money and use your name to say, well, yes, I'm this, to try to get what you want, then that just tells me once again that you have absolutely no self-esteem and no confidence. And to be a quarterback, in which that is the one thing that you got to have to be a successful quarterback in the league, is self-esteem, self-confidence, right? But off the field, you gotta beg for to get a woman or whatever. To me, it's baffling. But that could lead to a whole nother story to where I could keep on talking. But yeah, it's very sad. It's a very sad situation, and I just hate that we're talking. I hate that we're talking about it now.
Sure. I mean, like with Dan Wheeler, the former Seahawk, right? That basically thought he murdered his girlfriend, and was like, "Oh, you're still alive?" After he beat the crap out of her.
Yeah.
Someone brought up on social media, like, why is it that Dan Wheeler isn't a big name in the media, but Deshaun Watson is? And they were one of those crazy people that was thinking that the Houston Texans actually have set this up. And guys, like, I like a good conspiracy theory just like the next person, or the good conspiracy just like the next person. But the reality is that they were on the verge of shipping out Deshaun Watson. They were going to get a bevy of picks and, so much for him. And if they were really going to do this, they would do this after he left. If you're all about the conspiracy, because if they do it while he's a part of the team, then it just ruins his value on the marketplace. Nobody wants him now, I mean, the 49ers, they traded for their quarterback this week, last week, over the weekend. And so this like, there goes another spot that Deshaun's not going to land in. So now it's just pretty much New York, and New York, the Jets know that if they can offer whatever they want, a bag of peanuts for Deshaun Watson now, because, the Texans will take whatever they can if they want to get rid of him, if that's even a deal now. So for someone to say, "Oh yeah, well this is Cal McNair's doing and Jack Easterby's doing," look, I'm not a fan of both of those guys, but this is a major event, because we're in a movement of women empowerment and treating women with respect, through social media. This whole thing of raising awareness, and for them, a team that is in the media spotlight, especially given all the bull that's gone on with Easterby and McNair over the past couple months. For them to do something like this would be just a whole nother level of stupid. And I don't think that's possible, just because they would be shooting themselves in the foot from a money standpoint, a business standpoint, in terms of like value for Deshaun Watson while he's a part of the team. But two, just to do this and be under the microscope of the NFL, of social media, the court of public opinion, all these things, it just doesn't make sense to me. That doesn't make sense to me. Now, are we talking? The other thing I want to bring up is this whole saga with Deshaun and these women. It's so weird to me because, like I said, 19 cases have been filed, but they're all civil. Something about that just doesn't sit right. Like, And I keep saying this to people, and I get ridiculed by anybody looking for a reason to fight. So are you just saying, do you believe that Deshaun didn't do it, or the 19 women are lying? No, I did not say that. I'm just saying that before Tony Busby filed these lawsuits and all these women came to him and signed with him, and I'll bring up the SI article from today on Monday in a sec, but like all these women have to sign with Busby to have him represent them for these lawsuits, right? The guy, Tony Busby, isn't exactly the most pristine guy. If you know the legal realm in Houston, Texas, you will know if you bring up the name Tony Busby, and if you've worked in or around that industry, there have been rumors and stuff about how he treats women in the past and how he treats his people in the past. Just I'm gonna be brutally honest about it. So
scum of the earth, man.
He is a scumbag, not gonna lie. But at the same time, that should not take away from the importance of what happened to these women. That's where I'm torn in all this, Rod. I am a bit torn because I'm one of those logically thinking people. As much as I like to joke and comment about stuff and be snarky and sarcastic, I'm a very analytical person. And when I'm really thinking about these things, I break them down. As I constantly read through all these things, I'm like, this is disgusting to me. This is disgusting to me. But innocent until proven guilty. That has to be, we have to operate like that. But at the same time, it does make me angry because I'm seeing a consistent pattern from all these women of behavior with Deshaun Watson in all of their statements, right? It's almost like a serial killer that has a calling card or a pattern. He's a serial harasser, he mistreats women a certain way. And like you said, you don't understand about why he would do this. For me, it's a guy that is a certain level of profile and reputation, and there becomes a level of control that these guys get sick with, a power and control that they get sick with. And I think Deshaun, I'm going to be real, this whole finding masseuses to harass and try to have sex with on Instagram is such a weird way to do this, but I think it's his kink. I think this is his kink, Rod. Like, he likes to go on social media and find these good-looking masseuses and control them. That's what he gets turned on, obviously. If you read through these, and I'm not going to go into details, but just what it sounds like is he gets turned on by the control that he has over them, and that he puts them in these precarious situations that, he can see how far he can push the boundary of being obscene with them. And some of these girls ended up caving to him, and I think and for me, I have to say, as I keep reading and reading, I see this pattern, and it's either one, Tony Busby is coaching these women on how to file these lawsuits to sound the same, which would be disgusting, or two, Deshaun is doing this, which is disgusting. Either way, whatever happens, whatever the truth is, whether it's one or the other or somewhere in between both, it's just disgusting no matter what, Rod. Like, nothing about this situation is like, none of us can walk away feeling like, okay, that wasn't as bad as I thought, because no, that's not going to be the case. Because if all these women are, and I'm not trying to diminish their the value of their statements, folks, but if these women if 19 of these women that have filed these lawsuits, and apparently there are a dozen more that are out there that have made, complaints and have told their stories, we're talking about Bill Cosby level of numbers, Rod. I'm not going to lie to you. That's very scary. And if they're telling the truth, Deshaun Watson is a disgusting human being, okay? If you believe in conspiracies and think there's something fraudulently taking place with Tony Busby and these women, that in itself is disgusting as well. So there's no situation that we walk away from this now that this is not disgusting, no matter the outcome and no matter where the truth is. Like, every single angle that you can think of is disgusting with this story, Rod. And that's what bothers me. That bothers me, along with the fact that, now it's just we're overlooking that we're talking about just the reputation of the guy. We're talking about the business side of his contract. Everyone's talking about this kind of stuff, trades now. But it's like, we're overlooking the fact that we have 19 women plus more allegedly that have all stated that Deshaun Watson sexually harassed them, and that really bothers me. Really bothers me. And you can spin that comment how you want, guys. I don't give a shit. For me, how I feel about it is that it bothers me because this man has a problem with control. Like you said, you believe it's his ego or his confidence. For me, it's he likes to abuse his power. He likes to take advantage of his reputation. And that's a very, very, very dangerous thing, Rod. And I will say this, and I've told you this off on Sidebar, and I mean this. If a story comes out that's very similar to what's taken place while he's been been a part of the Houston Texans and an NFL player, if one woman comes out from Clemson University that tells a story that's very similar to this, he's done. That's it.
Game over, man.
That's
Game
it.
over.
He's done. Like, that's it, because you've established this man has he's a serial, like, sexual deviant. And
right.
And that would just this whole, and then when I put a cap on this, put it in a jar, put a cap on it, and then hold it like this, I'm like, how crazy is this story, man? Like, we went from talking about the Houston Texans being a disaster and to him wanting to be traded to, while we were arguing about this, one lawsuit was filed that he did this to another masseuse at the beginning of this month, like several weeks ago this happened. So it's like, holy shit, this guy's got a problem. Like, he's got a problem. And his camp, Rusty Hardin, he hired one of the most premier attorneys in the state of Texas. I'm not going to lie, guys.
No, in the U.S., man.
In the U.S. But what bothers me about this is how so relatively quiet
They have been quiet, bro.
Like, Deshaun is not getting ahead of this, and it makes me wonder why. And of course, Rusty Hardin, his attorney, is stating the reason why, or a reason to all of the silence, is because they're trying to get information from Tony Busby, who's refusing to give them the names of these women. But we know of 2 cases that are we could say have evidence that are fraudulent. I'm like, you're saying 2? All right, man. Come back to me when you've got proof on the other 17 as well, and then we can start talking about how you can be absolved of this, Deshaun, because this looks really bad, Rod. It looks really bad. And every day when another story comes out, and then today, on Monday the 29th, SI published a story about a masseuse that had a run-in with Deshaun in 2019, who he had really inappropriate behavior with. And it's almost, you almost want to laugh about this story at the end, not what happened with her, but his behavior, because this guy he's fucking clueless. He is. I'm just going to say it. He's clueless. He's not self-aware. He's just out of control, because her story was that, it was a referral from another masseuse. She contracted the job. He was very inappropriate with his behavior there during the whole event. The pattern that, just like these other women, was there as well. Here's the kicker, guys. This woman is not a client of Tony Busby. She spoke candidly to Sports Illustrated on the side away from Tony Busby. Now, she did state that she reached out to Busby several weeks ago when the whole pile-on started happening, and basically Busby was like, you need to sign with me or else we're not going to come forward with it, which, that just shows you that this guy is a bit scummy, because he's not, is he really looking out for these women's best interest, or is he also looking out for his best interest, which is kind of crappy, because we have 20 some odd women now at this point that are claiming, that they've been sexually harassed by Deshaun Watson in some shape or form here. And so it's mind-boggling to me, man. But the thing that that killed me about this story was, after that event took place, he then reached out to the woman again separately after this was a contract job that this happened for her. That he reached out to her separately 2 different later occasions through Instagram, and it sounds like he completely forgot that he already had an inappropriate, moment with this woman both times. And it's just, at that point, I kind of chuckled in a way, because I'm like, this guy is just clueless, man. Like, he's just out there just throwing out to see what he can. He's throwing out the bait to see what he can bring in, and then once that's done and over with, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to treat these women like crap, and I'm going to do some inappropriate things, even though these women are claiming to be professional, because whatever, dude, whatever. But he's been exposed. He's been exposed, Rod. This is it. Like, I mean, it's just, I'm trying to tell all these stories, and as I talk more and more about this, I got to shake my head and facepalm, because how did we get here, man? Like, wow.
I'm gonna come back to it again. if you're into those type of fantasies and exploration and sexual exploration and all that stuff, like I say, me personally, I don't condone that type of behavior because of just my character and whatnot. But if you're into that stuff, okay, do you, whatever. There is a place in Clark County, Nevada called Las Vegas that you can pretty much do whatever you want to do, short of, doing stuff that is criminally, illegal. But if you want to live in those type of fantasy worlds for a price, you can go to some spots and live out those dreams and live out those fantasies, and you can have folks do to you wherever you want them to do, right? You know, and so, and that's to where I'm like, you know, and I'll go ahead and I'll share this story because number one, it's our podcast, So
right.
yeah, it's our podcast, right?
Sure.
So I'm not going to name any names, but I do have some acquaintances that have ties to NBA agents, right?
Okay.
And this one particular acquaintance, happens to be heavily acquainted with, and but I will drop two NBA players. All right, I'm going to drop their names. He happens to be a real good acquaintance of Royce O'Neal for the Utah Jazz.
Okay.
Okay. So here's where I'm going with this. All right. Royce O'Neal's mom happens to be best friends of the mother of a so-called brother by the name of James Harden. And right before James got traded to Brooklyn, there was all the rumors of, hey, look, there's a possibility that he could go to Miami.
Go on.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there was a conversation between James's mother and Royce O'Neal's mother. And Royce O'Neal's mother basically said this: I don't think Miami is going to be a good spot for James. And I quote, because there's too many hoes in Miami. And James Harden's mom said this, and I quote, oh, baby, you ain't got to worry about that because the hoes are going to come to James. Right? So, and James got mad money, but do you hear James Harden out there wilding out like this? Right? NBA players are notorious for having tons and tons of women. Right? Notorious. Right? And these guys get paid more than a lot of these NFL players. Now, Watson's last contract, you're starting to get into that NBA stratosphere a little bit, right?
He's close to Harden cash.
Yeah, he's close to Harden cash.
He's close.
Yeah, he ain't there, no. But he's close to Harden cash. Okay. If you add in the endorsements that Harden is getting off the court as well too, Harden's got mad freaking money. But once again, you don't hear James Harden doing all this type of stuff, right?
No.
So this is where I'm going with it. Is and it also backs up what you've been saying, Pat. Is this is a pattern of behavior, once again allegedly, but it's a pattern of behavior that just keeps adding up and adding up and adding up and adding up to where it's too much smoke for there not to be fire.
Sure.
And if all of these women are telling the truth, then just like you said, we're almost talking Bill Cosby numbers. We're almost talking about, as far as level of severity, we're almost talking Jeffrey Epstein type stuff. And that's a sickness. That's a sickness that is associated, just like you said. And I think that the two coincide. The reason why you have this, affinity or this infatuation with control and power, because number one, the spirit behind it is lack of self-confidence. You know what I'm saying? If I can put on my project manager hat or my lean Six Sigma hat for you business professionals out there, okay? There's a process in that philosophy called root cause analysis, right? So if we're doing root cause analysis, the reason why he has this issue or this infatuation with control and power and wanting to impose his will is because it boils back down to, you know, if there is, I guess, an infatuation, because I'm a real big believer in balance, right? So if you're wanting too much power, right, then to me, the opposite of that is if you're confident enough and confident in you, right, confident in yourself, confident in what you do, then you don't have to push yourself up on other people. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to push yourself up on other women. You know, because once again, it's like, okay, you know, you don't want to get with me, that's your loss. Because trust me, there's about 50 some odd other women out there that trust me, they want to get with me. You know what I mean? So that and that's how I see it. That's how I see it. It goes back to that self-confidence. You don't want to get with me, yo, that's your loss. Because trust me, there's a whole bunch of other ones that I could call up right now and they'll be at my front door in 5 minutes if I tell them, hey, come on over. You know what I mean? So like I said, I don't condone that from a personal standpoint. I don't condone it, but if you're gonna play the game, then play the game, all right? So and you play the game by the rules, not the rules that Deshaun's talking about. You know what I mean? Not those type of rules. So yeah, and that's where I'm at with, and that's what gets me upset is, you know, it's like, why do you have to? And this is now the father talking, you know, talking my father voice. Why do you have to permanently scar these women? You know what I mean? You know, these are ladies that happen to be someone's daughter, right? You know, nobody thinks about that, you know, when they're in the moment, when they're in the act, right? You know, and when you're sick, you don't understand the psychological um the psychological warfare that takes place after stuff like that happens. People are scarred.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Sure. These ladies, you know, once again, allegedly. Now, if they're lying, then, you know, you go after Busby, you go after them, and you make an example out of them, you know.
Yeah.
But if all of this is true, then Deshaun, you know, he definitely, you know, he's got what's coming to him, right? And like I said, I can just only see it from a father standpoint, to where, you know, I can't, I just can't fathom as a man doing that to somebody else's daughter, man. You understand what I'm saying? I can't fathom doing that to somebody else's daughter, dude.
We can always postulate, theorize, try to come up with, you know, reasons why. On this show we could do that, or just in casual conversation, but I think the reality is that, like I said, Deshaun has a sickness, and just from all indicators, it's about control. And he's established this level of power through, well, it's this level of control through the power he has of who he is. And it's a pattern we've seen now with with almost 24 lawsuits now. They all look very similar. Unfortunately, like you said, Rod, they can be through a painted set of glasses because of Tony Busby being involved. We don't know yet.
Yeah.
That's one of the frustrating things.
That's very frustrating,
That's very frustrating because, you know, At this point, the moment I see, well, I think we lost audio. Can you talk, Rod, real quick? Say hello.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought we lost audio. It's not. It's my channel is being a little weird on the mixer here. The moment I see HPD say they are investigating criminal charges against Deshaun Watson for even one of these cases, and I'll be able to feel better about this whole situation, because that means that Deshaun will be brought to justice. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
If there is some really big scandal and scam going on, that's going to be a travesty in sports and just in our society, that something like this would happen. That if that would happen, that basically Tony Busby would be the mastermind behind a gross abuse of our legal system and a type
He
of...
should lose his license. He should lose his license.
If that happens, and it's going to call into question and unfortunately empower people that love to fight back when women look for empowerment when it comes to sexual assault and victims of sexual assault, and how they want to feel empowered. And there are, trust me guys, I have seen it firsthand on the internet, of course, because that's where these guys feel more empowered, because they feel like their anonymity and they're protected through the internet, so they can be assholes to people. But I've seen men comment and treat and make threats towards women that talk about trying to find empowerment and find healing and recovery after being victims. And there are men out there that like to just troll and become predators through their words and comments to these women. And it'll just, if there's any lying and scamming going on with any of this on the Busby and the women's side, it's going to be very unfortunate, because it's going to empower those jerks in our society. I don't want that to be the case. But like I said, Rod, no matter what happens now, either way, this story is going to have an effed up ending no matter what. No matter what.
Oh, yeah.
No matter what. And whether it's going to be Deshaun Watson is going to be blackballed from the NFL for the rest of his career, or if there is a scam involved that just makes you wonder what the hell happened. Like, how did we allow this to happen and become a gross abuse of our legal system? It's mind-boggling what that either way it's going to be ugly. I wish the best for this whole situation and these women. I really hope that, if these lawsuits are settled out, or if these go see their day in court, hopefully these women can find some peace in what happened to them, and Deshaun does get his just day in court, because like I said, no matter what happens, because we have to think about innocent until proven guilty in our legal system. We have to keep thinking that way, but at the same time, it's every day that a new story comes out, it's making it harder and harder. It is.
Yep.
It's making it harder and harder. And the reason why we spend a lot of time talking about this is because we want to get the hardest part of this story, of this saga, over with. And going forward, we'll talk about whatever updates there are. But this isn't going to be a dominating podcast unless there is some major turn here on this case or this story along the way in the coming weeks and months that really feels like we have to focus on it. But if not, it's going to be one of those things where we talk about the updates and we move from it, and we keep talking sports. So I don't really have a parting shot, Rod, outside of just saying, guys, it's watching the NCAA tournament this year has been great. I know we took a year off because of COVID, and I know we're trying to heal as a society, as a planet from COVID, and hopefully we'll get there in the coming months. It's just insanity how we think we're taking 2 steps forward with certain things, and then we get 2 steps back on certain things. Like, we're trying to move forward with healing as a country and healing as, sports fans in different regards. And then something like this horrible story with Deshaun Watson happens. So I'm hoping here that we can find some type of peace here soon. Really, that's what I'm looking for. And we can get back to enjoying sports. But with the Deshaun Watson story, it's much bigger and it's much more important. It's beyond football, like you said. It's beyond football at this point. We're talking about dozens of women and how they feel about themselves and how they feel about being treated by this one man and how they feel going forward, whatever PTSD they suffer from it. It's very unfortunate, Rod. Very unfortunate. Yeah. So I have no other parting shot other than just I'm totally baffled by this story, but I'm glad that we're able, you and I, to sit down and really talk about it, to just get this off our chest, and if anyone out there listening feels like, hey, they want to, reach out to us and talk about it, hey, you're always welcome to. You are always welcome to reach out to us through our social media sites, and if it's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, whatever, just / or add Cap Casualties and just reach out and say, hey, I want to give you my perspective or my story or how I feel about it, but I don't want to do it publicly. Can I message you guys privately? Go for it. We have no problem.
We welcome that. We welcome that with open arms.
We welcome that. We welcome chatting with you guys. We always do. We always appreciate, spreading the love, sharing, what we do here. Our goal isn't to just become some self-funded podcast. Our goal is to just keep doing what we do and enjoy what we do with our time, and just rap with you guys, rap with each other about just sports and the stories of our lives, and just along the way find a little healing when things get rough. Rod, that's how I feel about this.
Yep.
Do you have anything you want to part out with tonight?
I actually do, and the last couple of parting shots have always been on a low note, just due to everything that's going on in the world, whether we lose somebody or anything like that. I got to get back to normal, dude. I mean, I got to get back to my normal goofy self, man. So I'm going to throw this out there, all right? Shout out to the women's basketball team for the University of Texas.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
They pulled off a pretty major upset a couple of days ago, to where, a couple of upsets. I mean, first of all, they beat the third seed in UCLA and beat them fairly handily by 9 the other night. And then just a few moments ago, not moments ago, but a couple of days ago, they wound up doing something that the former football coach of the University of Texas Longhorns could never do, Tom Herman, is that Texas beat Maryland. Yeah, Texas beat Maryland.
I thought you were going to say Texas beat Kansas.
No, well, yeah, no, yeah. Well, Herman's beat Kansas when he was there, so you can actually throw that out. But
okay,
but Herman's never beat Maryland, but somehow Vic Schaefer knows how to do it, right? So once again, shout out to, all joking aside, shout out to the Longhorns for pulling out the upset and getting into the Elite Eight, to where they are going to face a huge foe in the University of South Carolina Gamecocks, coached by Don Staley, a Hall of Famer and former Olympian, and one of my favorite basketball players of all time, especially on the women's side. Absolutely loved her game as a point guard. I mean, she was just nasty, absolutely nasty. But yeah, so she's the coach of the Gamecocks, and so Vic Schaefer has a huge task on his hands, but definitely love what he's doing on the 40 acres. I mean, in the short amount of time that he's been on campus, he's turned that program into almost really, in the sense, an elite program in a short amount of time. So once again, my shout out to them. Hook 'em horns. Hope they do well against Carolina, and we'll see where it goes from there.
All right.
That's my part shot, man.
All right. Thank you, Rod. Pleasure as always. Pleasure's
all mine, man. Yes,
like I said earlier, if you need to find us on social media, / or at Cap Casualties at your whatever site you want to roll through, reach out to us, spread the love. The podcast is always on Spotify, so if you want to share it out there, appreciate it. We would always welcome folks to reach out to us. And, as we move forward with March Madness, as we wrap this up and go into baseball season, we'll talk a little bit about baseball as well. We'll talk about the NBA stretch here. And, we're going to be gearing up here very soon for the NFL draft, Rod. So that's, the namesake of this podcast. That's where it was birthed, was, the NFL offseason. That's really, what started us always talking about, Cap Casualties, talking about free agency. And we really didn't do a whole lot of that. But, we may ramp it up a bit where we do, our pre-draft specials, and we may do a complete episode. We may bring someone, a couple people. We probably need a panel, just a panel of folks to chat about the NFL draft. But anyway, guys,
that sounds pretty spicy, man.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, be good to each other. Wear your masks and play it safe out there. And we appreciate all the love and all the listens and all the downloads. We'll catch you on the flip.
Peace.